Hello, and thank you so much for joining everybody. My name is Valentina Cervera. I'm the president of the European Free Alliance Youth, and I would like to welcome you all to our event, Smashing the Glass Ceiling. As you have seen in this introductory video, we have an amazing panel with women from diverse experiences and diverse parliaments across Europe. And I will let you to introduce ourselves. First, we have Delith Jewel, 33 years old. Delith has been a member of the Senate for South Wales for the past 2 years. She is her party's shadow minister for the future. Before coming to the Senate, Delith worked for Action Aid as a women's rights campaigns specialist, where she worked alongside women in Kenya, Ghana, Bangladesh, Guatemala, and Jordan to promote women's rights in Global South. Delith's first role after graduating was a researcher in Westminster, where she played a role in campaigns that led to introduction of new laws relating to stalking in 2012, coercive control in 2015, and she has also worked for Citizens Advice. With this amazing introduction, Delith, I would like to hear a little bit more about yourself and how this experience as an activist has taken you to who you are and now being an elected representative.
Oh, Valentina, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Hi to everyone watching, and happy belated International Women's Day as well. As Valentina was just setting out, I've been a member of the Senate, the Welsh Parliament, for 2 years, but a lot of the work that I did before then was involved in, I guess, trying to make changes and trying to bring about changes for the better for women's rights. A lot of the work that I did with Action Aid, for example, was about not telling women's stories, but amplifying women's voices. And I saw so many structural problems in society, yes, across the world, but also here in the UK, where there are so many things that I wanted to see change. And I thought that actually the best way of trying to change people's stories and to make sure that that women have a greater voice in decision making is by being in public life myself. So I try to use the platform I have to promote better the kinds of changes that we want to see in society. And I'm really excited about this event this evening and hearing what other people's experiences are, as well as people in the audience, and to see if there's anything that I can do to help encourage other young women to go into politics. Then my work will be done for the evening, because I really think that having more women in public life is essential if we're going to get social justice.
I couldn't agree with you more, Delith. Thank you so much for an amazing introduction and for your work throughout these years, because I believe many women across the globe have felt the impact of your work, and I'm sure it's not been short. Up next, I would like to introduce our next panelist, Iria Carreira. She's 30 years old, elected in the 2020 the Galician Parliament as a member of Galicia Nova, the youth organization for the Galician Nationalist Bloc, BNG. She holds a degree in medicine by the University of Santiago de Compostela, and she currently works as a resident doctor specializing on family and community medicine. She's part of the executive board of Galicia Nova, and she's also a chair of the Galicia Nova LGTB Assembly. Well, Iria, thank you so much for joining us tonight. As well, what a diverse background and how medicine and politics is so essential, and how we need people with experience in the health bodies also making decisions in the legislative bodies, because we've seen if we let our health bodies to the Tories and people who don't have a clue, we pay the price very expensive. Iria, tell us a bit about your experience, please, and how all this background has impacted you in your political life now.
Well, thank you, Valentina, for your presentation, and thank you, the EFAy, for inviting me to this panel. Just a little correction. I'm still 29, not 30.
Oh. I could tell you definitely don't look 30.
But everything is okay for no problem. As you said, I'm working right now as a doctor here in Santiago, and if it gives me an important perspective, especially right now during this pandemic, where we can see all the health system is so important. and it I think improves my work in the parliament. I'm one of the health speakers in the parliament of the BNG, and being inside of the health system, I think it gives you a different perspective. You know what you are talking about when you talk about deficiencies or lack of resources. So it's you know that that's our reality. And I've been part of the BNG for the last 10 years. I'm part of the LGBT Assembly of Galicia Nova, and that's the other part of the job I do in the parliament. I'm taking care of the LGBT rights in the group of the BNG in the parliament.
Well, thank you so much, Iria. I believe in times that in Spain, in the times we're living in Spain right now, where minorities are being under attack so violently by the far right, and now I hope this pandemic also has teach a lesson to politicians to learn to listen to the people at the first level of this pandemic and at the health services, and hope we can learn so much from you. Thank you. I'm going to introduce now our next panelist. This is Marta Rosique. She's 24 years old. She's currently an MP at the Spanish Parliament for Esquerra Republicana de Catalunya. She's actually the youngest MP in the whole parliament. She holds a degree in journalism from Pompeu Fabra in Catalonia, and she's also studying now a degree in political science. Before entering parliament, she was a very active member of Jovent Republicà. She was international officer and very involved in EFAy. She also led the university students movement in defense of self-determination during the 1st of October referendum. And I would like to welcome Marta Rosique. Thank you so much for joining us. And please let us know a little bit about yourself and your experience as how an activist and now as a young representative in parliament. How has that impacted on people's lives?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this event. I've been working very close to EFAy in the past, so I'm very glad to be here with you. And sorry for getting late. I was in a commission actually here in the Spanish Congress, so I couldn't be here earlier. Well, I think. Well, first of all, to introduce myself, well, you have introduced myself, I think, better than I can do. But some things that you probably don't know is that I've been here in the Spanish Parliament for almost 2 years now, and I am the youngest MP here in the Spanish Parliament. So my entrance in this Spanish Parliament, I think that raised a debate in the public media about whether young people should be or not shouldn't be in the institutions. And I think that at least it's been positive in the sense that now everyone accepts it as it is, and I can see and we see it in the different institutions that now there are more and more young people who are entering also there, and I believe that this is a positive change that we are seeing. So we have here Iria she's in Galicia, for example, but we have also young MPs in the Basque Country, in the Catalan countries, in the case of the Spanish state. So I believe that we're making a change there, especially now with the crisis that is related to the COVID. I would say that it's more necessary than ever. In the case of Spain, after the 2008 economic crisis, the politics that were implemented actually led us in a situation where the Spanish state is the first state in the European Union on temporarity contracts, and that's a very terrible thing to take into account. But also it is the first one in youth unemployment, so it shows how the politics in that moment, in the 2008 crisis, were implemented. In this moment, there were different political changes made between the two main parties, the Popular Party and in the Socialist Party, that both of them implemented this kind of different labor legislation that brings us to the situation where we are at the moment. There is people who say that we are the generation who live two crises. I would say that we don't live two crises. We are in the situation of crisis. We've always lived crisis in our generation, and this is basically, at least in the case of the Spanish state, because there is the establishment that can be that counts on different companies that actually have like a real influence in the Spanish government. I would say that the Spanish parliament is actually not the space of political power in the Spanish state. The political power is in these companies, is sometimes in the Spanish government, but not even in the Spanish government. It's in the court, it's in the military system, it's in the police forces. So in our case, it's very difficult to actually make changes in that sense. And all the governments that have been in the Spanish parliament, in the Spanish government, like the Socialist Party, the Popular Party, but also now Podemos, who say that they are the most progressive force that has ever entered in the Spanish government. They depend on these forces, and as you probably know, in the case of the Spanish state, here we never condemned the fascism that was here in Spain. Actually, there was an agreement between the fascist forces and the opposition, and some forces in the opposition. We weren't there at that moment, actually, and with this agreement, they raised the so-called democratic system that we are in now in the Spanish parliament. This means that we have still judges that come from this time. We still have members in the military. So members of the military system that are fascists, and that when they show it that way. Well, I'm talking too much.
No, we're going to have questions later. I'm going to introduce my list just now, but I'm sorry for cutting you. I'm just really mindful for time.
No, I'm sorry.
It was very interesting. And I really thank you for constantly challenging the establishment in Spain that is very set in all times, and for bringing the youth voice in a parliament that is still set in old rules and by old people. So you're very necessary, and thank you for your constant activism and for raising your voice. And up next, I have to apologize, Miley, for being last, but we have our very own member of the Bureau, Miley Rosberg, 20 years old, living in Kiel, Germany, and studying history and political science, member of the Danish minority in Germany, and president of SSB Dumbom, the youth party of SSB, the party of the Danish minority in Germany, vice president of external affairs for EFAy, constituency candidate for the region Regensburg for German election in September, and currently trying to be the Spitzenkandidat candidate for SSB. The decision will be made at the beginning of May, and running against two 40-year-old, and the decision is pretty historical because it's the first time SSB are going to participate in a national elections on 60 years. So, Miley, thank you very much. I have to ask you, how's it been a candidate in COVID times? And I hope, given that we have two 40 years old and that they won't challenge much what we have now, what can you bring as a youth candidate to Berlin?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. Of course, being a candidate and being in this internal campaign during a pandemic is not really easy, because you don't have any chances to reach out personally to the delegates who actually are going to decide who will be the Spitzenkandidat. And some or most of our delegates are not very active on social media, where I'm actually doing my campaign. So it's a challenge, but I think I'm doing good. I mean, I have a lot of calls and a lot of meetings every day to reach out to people to explain them why I should be the Spitzenkandidat of SSW. And yeah, let's see. The decision will be taken at the beginning of March. No, May, because it has the date has been moved 3 or 4 times already, which is really hard as well. Yeah, but I'm very positive about this process, and of course, I hope it will be me soon. So I'm actually not a parliamentarian yet, but I hope maybe I will be it this year, because I think it's so important that we in Germany finally have a voice for the minorities. We have 4 national minorities in Germany, and they are not represented in the national parliament in Germany. And also, we don't have one woman under 30 in sitting in Berlin, which I think is pretty sad. So that's just 2 of the reasons why I'm running for this position, and why I hope that people will vote for me in the beginning of May.
Well, fingers crossed, Miley. You definitely have all our support, and we hope that if we do an event in the future, you'll probably come back as a proper elected representative. And now, one of the first questions I have to ask you and to our panelists is, as women, what has been the biggest challenges, and most importantly, as young women, that you have faced in politics? I'll go in order from the introduction. So Delith, if you want to go first.
Thank you, Valentina. I think that some of the challenges that I've faced, partly at first, I think sometimes it can be, you come up against people's prejudices and they've got a certain idea about how young women should behave. And I've certainly been involved in rallies and things like that where, I've really been kind of fighting for something to change. And so I've been kind of shouting and things like that. And I've had people come up to me afterwards and I think speak to me in a way that they wouldn't speak to a man or even a woman who is older than me. I just think that there are certain presumptions in society that we need to shatter. I mean, we're talking about breaking a glass ceiling. There are still so many ceilings in terms of people's attitudes and in terms of people's assumptions that we still need to shatter into 1,000 pieces, I suppose. I think, and I'm sure this is going to come up during the discussion, there can be challenges to do with people's attitudes online. I'll be interested to hear if everyone else has these things, that if ever I do tweet about women's rights, I will inevitably get a man saying, yeah, but what about men? Like almost always you just think, gosh, okay, so I think that's a perpetual challenge. And yeah, I think overcoming in my personal life, I'm not someone who kind of vies on confrontation or kind of thrives on confrontation, but some kinds of confrontation are obviously absolutely necessary in politics. And I think that that's a skill that I've had to, I'm fine with being confrontational in work mode, but dealing with that and dealing with being able to be that way is something that I've had to get used to, and not worrying so much about that everyone has to always agree with what I say, and that I'm going to kind of make some people who are in different parties not like me. I guess that's something that you just got to get used to.
Yeah, I believe like all women have had to constantly fight to be themselves, and fight to be against those stereotypes that we have been said. Whether if it's we're not too ladylike or we're not behaving properly, we always annoy someone. But that means we're doing something right. For you, Iria, personally, what has been, as a young woman, what has been your biggest challenges in politics?
Unfortunately, I think the experiences we are sharing are very common, and all of us have experienced at any time in our lives. What Delith said, it's familiar to me also, and I don't know, the behavior that is expected for us, or even the mansplaining, what explaining you what are you talking about. And I don't know. I think everybody knows what are we talking about. I think for me the biggest challenge maybe was being able to make myself heard over my colleagues' voices. The political field was designed by men and for men, and so many times, and in every spaces, female voices tend to be ignored. Even worse when it comes from a young woman as me. The difficulty of making my point of view taken into consideration and not just dismissed because it's a girly perspective. I don't know. I think you can know what I'm talking about. It's really complicated to feel comfortable in a space that we know that we are strangers to them. Marta is experiencing it in the Spanish Congress, the youngest parliament, and even she's a woman. I'm not the youngest in the Galician parliament, but it's really similar.
Yeah, I feel like I see all of us nodding because it takes our hearts, because we can all remember a time we've been in a meeting that we felt we were constantly unheard, or we had to raise our voice and repeat our point many times, or not even being taken into consideration because we have to grow up yet. We've not had enough life experiences. So Marta, the same question for you, and now trying to make your voice heard in the Spanish Parliament. What are the biggest challenges for young women?
I will speak less now because I spoke too much in the.
No, use your voice.
I actually feel the same that that they just said in that sense. I think that you have to impose yourself twice, and when you have to negotiate, especially with the government, there you have to explain or to show that you are stronger than they think. And also what I've faced though is that I've seen like a huge sexism in the media and in the social networks. In the media, for example, the spokesperson of my group, he's called Gabriel Rufián, okay, and they wrote an article about me, for example, saying that I was the new Rufiana of the Congress. So, like, assuming that I would be like the same like him, but as a woman, and this is a clear example of sexism. But also, if you look at the social networks and what we receive, at least myself, I receive a lot of comments that are like completely sexist every day, almost every day. Or like sometimes a group of men just decide that they will send me messages saying that they are touching themselves thinking about me, and I receive like 10 messages like this, and this is like the least thing that we receive. So I don't think a man receives messages like that.
I completely, I think we've all seen it on Twitter, the experience, the misogyny, the sexism that the women face, young women in politics. In the UK, has been harassing. We've even had a murder during Brexit times, and it's not going away, and it's time for governments to protect, because if we don't protect women at this time, we're going to be losing women in this representative bodies, and we need their voices. And the fact that they will call you the new Rufiana, not even giving you your own surname. You have to take a man's surname. No, you're Rosique. You don't need somebody else's surname. So keep fighting, and thanks so much for your testimony. And now, Miley's, for you, what are your experiences as a young woman, as an activist? What are your biggest challenges you've faced?
Well, I basically agree with everything that has been said, to be honest. But I also experienced, especially in this campaign I am in right now, that people don't always believe what you are saying, if you are having facts or something, because of your age and also because you are a woman. And actually, I have an example, because a couple of weeks ago, I had a conversation with a group of people, and I had an opinion about a topic which I did a lot of research on. And, I had a really strong opinion about this because, it's really important to me. And then there was this older man who told me that maybe I should read a little more about this topic. And maybe, then at this point, I would change my opinion, because actually the things I was saying, that wasn't right and stuff. So basically he was saying that I don't know enough about this topic to have this strong opinion about it. And I think it's pretty similar to mansplaining. Like, people want to explain the world to me, and I'm always thankful for people who have like constructive criticism, who are telling me, hey, maybe I got more experience in this thing or whatever, so let me help you a bit. But I'm not okay with people trying to explain me how the world works. And that's what I'm experiencing a lot, actually, that people don't believe what I'm saying and have to, they need another proof, and that people want to explain the world to me because I'm young and I'm female.
Yes, completely. Goes back to the life experiences that we were mentioning. It feels like the life experiences we lived, it doesn't matter if they were big or not. It doesn't matter, because we're young, we still have so much left to live. And for me now in the UK as a young immigrant, I constantly get patronized because of the language barrier, or and that's the thing. I'm completely okay with constructive feedback, but don't treat me like I'm stupid, because we'll knock you out of the park. It's that's the thing, that you have to prove yourself twice, before they take you seriously. Now, our next question, it would be, what do you think is the reason for the low level of representation in young women politics? I'm so happy we have you, but I wish we had so much more. I wish we had so much more people and so much more women to choose from and encourage. And you are pioneers. You're setting an example. So why you personally think there's lack of representation in young women in politics? Delith, if you'd like to go first.
Yeah, I think it's because of the things that we've just set out. I think that young women, it's partly just, again, the expectations of women, but women who are already online will see, like, some of the abuse that Marta was just describing, that, some of that will be in private messages, but some of it will be blatant. It will be out there on the feeds, because people just, a lot of men just behave in this disgraceful way in public forums. And I think that, and not just that, but kind of like the discourse in the print media, like in magazines and newspapers, there's so often, even if it's not damaging, like assaults or anything, even if it's talking about, what the female politicians are wearing, or whether or not, they've got a new hairstyle, they're things which seem to be up for debate that would never be up for debate for male politicians. Like, that women will have to explain why they haven't had children yet, or why they haven't started a family, or why they're not married. You'd never ask a man. So I think that women are aware that they're, like everyone has just been saying, there are these extra barriers that you have to kind of overcome, and there are these extra things that you have to put up with. And lots of women probably think, well, why would I do that to myself? I mean, and it's for us, it's for society, it's for everyone, to make it so that other women don't have to put up with these kind of barriers. It should just be normal and expected that women of all ages should go into public life. But at the moment, there's still so much we've got to do.
Yeah, I wish you weren't the exception. I wish because thanks to you, we could create a network of other young women elected representatives that can support each other and can heal from these experiences that we all live. Because at the end of the day, we live in a system that has made us feel like we're individuals fighting each other, when instead, when we talk to other women, what we live is the same, and now I lead to you, Iria. What for you do you think why do you think there's a lack of young women representative in politics?
It's you were saying the experiences are so common and so useful for us. As I said, this is not a comfortable space for us. It wasn't designed thinking about us. We have to fight every step to prove that we deserve this space that we are taken. And also, women still have a very specific role in our society that makes it even complicated. Women have jobs in worse conditions. Women carry all the weight of caring. We have to take care of children, of the elders. We are responsible of our homes. We have all this role that we have to break to can involve in politics. It's not just the difficulties inside the politics. It's also we have to fight with the society. And I think there is another point, and I like this panel because one reason it's the lack of reference. So many times when a young woman wants to involve in politics, she has no reference to look at. There are not so many women involved in politics. I've been lucky enough to be in a party where our voices have been taken into consideration. I think the BNG is one of the parties in the world that our leader is a woman, Ana Pontón. Unfortunately, there are not so many parties that can, I don't know, can put a woman at the front of the organization. I don't know. I think when in the parliament, when there are the images between the president of Galicia and our group, the images are so different. They are always, and every single take, they are men. In our pictures is Ana, is Olaya, is Noah. There are so many women in the first line of the politics.
Yes, Iria, you're completely right. I've been lucky like you that in Scotland, for example, we have a woman that is the leader of the country and of our party. But growing up in Spain and in Catalonia, there was such a lack of female representatives. And in Catalonia, we've had a female president, but in Spain, we're still yet to see even a president like, I don't know. Now, speaking about Catalonia and Spain, I go to Marta Rosique, and why do you think there's a lack of young women in politics and a lack of representatives?
Well, I was going to say exactly what Iria said. I think it's about a lack of references in that sense. And usually, when you ask a man to take a stance and go to an institution, they always say yes, and they don't even think about it twice. When you ask a woman, we think about it not only twice, but many, many more times. I would actually like to ask this question to the others here, because how many of us have accepted it without even thinking about it, and without even thinking if we would be capable of doing this job, if we could actually take it for 4 years in my case. In my case, for example, one thing that shows this very well is that the day that I was elected, I spent all night crying, all night crying. and I didn't even realize that what I could actually do here, you know. And I felt like I couldn't even speak up in the Congress, you know, in that night. And I did accept, even I cried after, because I thought that I could be a reference for young women in that sense, no? And especially in my case, and in our case actually, for pro-independence young women, no? Because this is an extra thing to think about. And well, I feel like we have to make an extra effort sometimes, accept some responsibilities, even if we don't really feel comfortable with them, because after all, we can end up feeling a little bit more comfortable. Never absolutely comfortable, but a little bit more. And I feel that this is all about this, about being referent to someone else, so that in the future, young girls, when they think about what they can be in the future, they can also think about being the about being MPs also, but about being, for example, football players, or all these things that I assume to be for men, you know. And in that sense, I feel that we have to do it in all fields.
Completely right, Martina. And I'm glad, you didn't let the imposter syndrome and the fear take over you. I'm glad you were called and you thought, yes, I'm going to be someone's reference. And sometimes you just have to be your own reference, because I guarantee you, Marta, that if we didn't have your voice in parliament, we will be losing a lot. And I will always say this to any women: if they offer you a platform, the little times they offer you a platform, take it. Don't think it twice, because I guarantee you have something more interesting to say than the establishment we've been hearing for so many years. So now with this, I go to my list, hoping to be a future reference.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of reasons why there are so few young women in politics. I think like a very formal thing is that politics is not very family friendly, and women are the ones, a lot of, or females at least, who are getting the children. So there's no way you can be a parliamentarian and then, or there is a way, but it's very, very complicated. We have some reference in Jacinda Ardern, for example, who got a child while she was a prime minister. But I think we have to make politics more family friendly in a way. For example, in the German parliament, it's not allowed to have your baby with you in the parliament or inside the I don't know how you say it, where people are talking. Yeah, and that would be a step to make it more comfortable for women to be politician and to have young children, for example. Then another thing is that we are missing role models. Like I already said, we have no women under 30 in the German parliament, and there are only sitting like 30% women. So that we are missing women who young girls can look up to. And I think the things Marta said really touched me, because even though I am aware of imposter syndrome, and even though I know how often women are asking themselves, I'm, or if they are capable enough, I did the same thing when I had to decide if I want to be the Spitzenkandidat in last September. I was thinking so much about it, like every single day, every minute, basically. And I knew it was the imposter syndrome. I knew it, but I just couldn't help me in a way. And the thing, because I was thinking about the consequences for other people. I was thinking about the consequences for my private life, my career, my studies. And I think the one thing which really brought me to the point where I said I have to do it was that I was saying there is no woman in the parliament who can talk or who is in the position to talk for young women in Germany. Young women aren't here. They're not present at the table to a decision are being made. And that was the thing which finally led me to this decision that I have to try it, no matter what consequences there will be. But this is just, a bigger thing in a way. And that's why I at the end said that I want to run for this, because this is not about me. This is a bigger thing in a way. And I think we always have to remind ourselves that even though we sometimes think that we are not capable, we are. And that we are capable, and we can continue telling ourselves we are not.
Completely, Miles, and I subscribe to that message. We are capable, and I think the higher up we go in life, the more positions we take, the imposter syndrome is going to be bigger, because we haven't been trained for those. But as long as we're aware, as long as we do like Miles, there's like, it's just my imposter syndrome talking, we're going to fight it, and as long as we have each other to support each other, we can have this. And now, our last question: what do you think needs to change in politics to increase the number of young women in politics? And when do you think we need young women in politics? So, well, Delith, if you want to go first.
I feel guilty that I keep going first. I think the reason why we need more women in politics, and young women in politics, is because as all of the amazing women on this panel have been setting out, unless there are young women involved in public life in our different nations, then there won't be anyone else speaking for our interests. And I think I'm really struck by what Marta said about, that whether or not she's been comfortable, and and the idea of maybe we're not ever going to be completely comfortable, because there are so many more things that we all want to not just achieve for us, we want to achieve it for all of the women who haven't been born yet. And I think that as long as I don't see that as an uncomfortable burden on our shoulders, but I think that the idea of comfort, I guess it means different things maybe in different languages as well. But it's a really interesting concept, because I guess it's like being at ease. And I don't think that any of us are ever going to be able to be at ease and be totally comfortable, because we have to fight for so much more. And you know what? I don't necessarily see that as a negative thing. I think that we are all incredibly lucky that we have the platform that we have, that we're fighting for these platforms, because then we have the hope that things will be different. And I remember when Julia Gillard in Australia, when she had stepped down because of the sexism, like regardless of your party politics, she endured so much sexism, horrible language by her opponents. And she said she was still glad that she had done the role, because it would be easier for the next woman, and it would be easier for the woman after that, and the woman after that. I think that's what we always need to keep in mind is, we're fighting for change, and we're fighting for the future.
Yes, and that's why I'm very grateful to all of you, for being brave and for taking that position, because you're gonna make it easy for us, for the next ones to come. And sometimes we need those heroes, and it's once you take the Matrix pill, you see reality, and there's always something we're gonna need to change. But that's how we thrive for more, and we thrive for better. And now, Iria, for you, why do you think we need young women in politics, and what do you think needs to change in politics right now so we can be there?
I think that maybe the most important thing that have to change is paying attention of what women have to say. It's not only attend of our specific problems. It's not attend to the wage gap or the sexual harassment or any of the problems that affect specifically to us. Is taking consideration what women think about that and how we want to solve it. And it's recognized that we have a lot to say here, and our space in politics cannot be only for feminism or for attendees women politics. I think all political parties or the society have to change the mind and attend that we are capable to develop tasks in every area. We can work in economics, in culture, in industrial or in environmental matters. It not have to be only in feminism, in women politics. And why we need more young women in politics? I think I'm gonna say it's very obvious, but it's so important. We cannot construct a society without the half of the population, and even more, without the people that are building our present and even our future. It's so obvious, but it's so basic to understand that we have to take this voice, to take this space, that it's our space because we belong to it.
Completely, it's not them giving us something, it's us taking what it belongs to us and what should have been ours for many years. Marta, for you, what do you think it's necessary to change, and why is necessary young women are in politics?
Yes, well, going back to what we were saying, and I think that can be related to the question. The institutions in the end are created by rich white men and elites, no, in that sense. And being there is revolutionary, taking the power of these people that have always governed, no, and this is um, why we will never be comfortable in the institutions, and we shouldn't be, because in the moment that we are, it means that maybe we are not taking into account other women who maybe have less resources, most probably will have less resources, and that's where I always mark the difference between the liberal feminism and the other kinds of feminism, because for me, we don't get anywhere if we have like all the parliament only with women, but are women who exploit other women, or who vote in favor of policies that exploit other women, no? And I believe that this is the difference that we have to make. And in that sense, having young women in the institutions allow us to show that feminism is transversal, that affects all fields, and that from the start point we have to count on the women's perspective, because we come from a generation that already is assimilating certain things that make a difference, no? And for example, in our case, we have 52 MPs who come from the far right. In our case, it's called Vox, okay? And we have the threat of losing all these rights in the Spanish parliament, because they are raising every day. And I believe that being there, having young people there, allow us to make democratic memory, to reflect about what happened to the 3 generations before us, because they usually say that you can make democratic memory if you come from the 3rd generation, and in that sense we can do it. We have always lived in a democratic system, so somehow democratic system, and this makes a difference to other people who lived fascism, like our parents, no? And in that sense, we are the ones who can actually make steps forward.
I couldn't agree more. I think for us it's so necessary, and I think our generation is quite conscious about it, but still needs to be reminded that if it's not transversal feminism, if we don't have women of color, trans women, poor women, we're part of the patriarchy, you know, because we're leaving every one of us behind, and then we belong of the establishment. And now, last but not least, Miley's, what do you think young women are necessary in politics, and what needs to change?
Well, I believe that, good decisions for the people, for very diverse people, can only be taken if the people who actually are deciding have different backgrounds and different perspectives. So that's clear that that's why we need young women in politics, but I also think that if we are not represented where decisions are being made, then we will never reach equality because our perspective is missing. So that's I think that's one of the most important things for us to really fight for, to be there when decisions are being taken, because that way we have an impact on politics and on life, Another thing is that I think we have to go or get away from the thought that young people are not capable to do politics, because I hear a lot of times that I don't have the life experience, or if life experience is the definition of sitting in a parliament for 30 years, yeah, then I'm sorry, then I don't have any life experience. But I don't think that's the thing we should look after if we want to do really good politics. But I bring a different perspective into the decisions and into the discussions, and that's why I think that we have to be, or we have to fight for that people get more open to actually see which value young people have for parliaments. And that's what I'm trying, and I know Marta has been trying for years as well, probably all of us, that we are young and we are female, and we may not have a lot of life experience in case of sitting in the parliament or whatever, but we have different perspectives and experiences and a different history, which also has to be taken into consideration.
Thank you very much, Miles, for that point of view, because you're completely right. I think politics for men is a career end, where they go to die with a comfortable job and a comfortable salary. And for us is where we start, when we change the world so we can go and live our world without the constrictions of being a woman. And now that we come to the end, I would like to thank you all for joining us. And I would like to thank especially our panel for what has been an incredible event. And for me, these events are specifically necessary, where we learn from each other, when we remember us that we're not alone, that we have sisters, that we are all in this together, and there's still so much to fight. And I hope, until we don't achieve a Europe, a world where women are safe, where every woman is safe, none of us will be free. So thank you so much for joining us, and goodbye.